Welcome to All Things Chiropractic.
Well, welcome to another episode of All Things Chiropractic. I'm Paul Andrews.
And I'm Dr. Mark Davini. Welcome all.
Okay, Doc. So today we're going to be talking about something that is a bit sensitive in some ways, but
Yeah, we might have to take on a more serious tone on this one.
yeah. And it's really a topic that I've been wanting us to cover since it happened, because there's a lot behind it that I think will resonate with our audience. And so this is about the Luigi Mangione case. For those that are like, I think I know that name, but not sure what we're talking about. Back in December of 2024, he was charged with killing Brian Thompson, CEO of UnitedHealthcare. Allegedly, this 26-year-old was outside a Manhattan hotel where Thompson was attending an investors conference for UnitedHealthcare and shot him. Now, on the face of it, obviously, I think we can all have a consensus to say that murder or assassination is wrong. I mean, absolutely devastating to the Thompson family, what happened. And,
yeah, it'd be good to examine the mindset of all of this and what brought this seemingly normal person to this point.
Well, that's what I want to talk about. I want to talk about what are the alleged motivations and things that were in Mangione's mind that sort of brought him to this, what he thought was a good solution, apparently, to a very large problem that we have in this country, and it's really about healthcare and healthcare coverage. So, to sort of, lay the foundation for this discussion, let's just talk a little bit about the environment of healthcare. Now, as All Things Chiropractic, a podcast, we know that a lot of our listeners are chiropractors or chiropractic assistants, and we all share in the frustrations of what has become this healthcare system or this sick care insurance that we have, right? I mean,
well, what's more evident than this year, everybody finally getting some of the full effects of Obamacare and having their insurance rates go up 20, 30% in 1 year.
You and I had that conversation this morning because mine went up 23%. 23%. So here's some of the figures, some of the data to talk about that when we compare ourselves to other nations, I hate to do that in a lot of ways, but where can we start? We spend twice as much per annum on healthcare, but the results of our wellness or lack thereof as a country does not translate in the same proportion to what we're spending, for sure.
Let that sink in a little bit. We spend more and we get less.
The results are a lot less, that's for sure. I think, if we really dug into it, there's so many opposing forces within the borders of the country about healthcare when it comes to what we're getting, what we're consuming, all the different aspects that go into good health, right?
Yeah.
So,
but as a country, we're not as healthy as we should be based on our technology and what we spend.
Let this one sink in a little bit. In the past, since 2000, so 26 years, premiums have increased over 325%. Now, I don't know anybody's income, particularly in chiropractic or other incomes, that have gone up that much in 26 years. It doesn't seem to match, for sure.
Deductibles become larger, right? Copays are higher. Everything about the plan is less, yet we're paying 325% more.
Right. So when you're doing the calculus, right, of that 325% or more, that's just on the premium. It's not even including the cost share that you have dramatically increased over 26 years. Gone are the days of a 80/20 plan with a $500 deductible, right? I mean, you'd be paying
Oh my
if
God,
they even
yes.
offered him, it'd be a fortune. It would be a fortune for sure.
Right, right.
So, looking at not just those pressures, the financial pressures of the premiums and the patient responsibility, the cost share. On top of that, now you also have a lot more of carrier or third parties hired by carriers as gatekeepers or authorization veils, referral requirements that again start to restrict your coverage and frustrate not only the member but the providers that are trying to get reimbursed and deliver care with continuity.
Yeah, this hits us home more than any part of it. All of a sudden, they have insurance, but they don't have any coverage.
Oh, well, their copay exceeds the allowable, so they're paying 100% of that visit. Now, granted, it's a potentially a discount because of fee schedules, but you're still as the member, as the patient, paying it all. And the claim is just being processed to $0 on the insurance side because the allowable is more. I mean, the copay is more than the allowable, or the deductible will never be met in the year
Yeah.
because it's so high. I
And
mean,
they
yeah.
just practice fear mongering by making us accept the fact that we have to pay these high premiums for coverage that's very basically poor coverage just in case. So we're all in that panic
Yeah.
mode that, my God, what if there was something catastrophic? I couldn't afford it. And that part is true. So we accept these high premiums, high deductibles, high copays and coinsurance, and with the hope that we never have to use it.
So back to the Mangione case, it came back up recently because it was in the news a few weeks ago because he has dodged the death penalty. So whatever your opinion is of that, that's partly why he's come back up in the news as this case goes through the court system. But let's let's talk a little bit about the broader sort of ideology or belief system that he had according to prosecutors, because before I dug into this case, to be honest, my thought immediately, because of my background both in the chiropractic field, insurance, compliance, I just assumed the guy had United Healthcare and was getting screwed, or thought he was getting screwed on his plan and flipped out. Like that's what my initial response, like mentally, was. But come to find out, he himself didn't even have United Healthcare as a plan. He didn't have it personally as a coverage. According to prosecutors, he was targeting UHC because they are like the largest carrier in the country, the largest health insurance carrier in the country. And they make gobs of dollars. There's no question about it. You can look at it, their portfolio, just like most insurances in the last couple decades, have really dramatically increased. And according again to these prosecutors, it was no accident that it was outside of this United Healthcare investors conference, right? I mean, just that alone, investors conference, United Healthcare, like, hello. What does that sort of insinuate? You know what I mean?
Right.
So when I look at this and I'm like, okay, so it was a broader issue of frustration that this gentleman had with the healthcare system. It wasn't. It may be particulars, but that's not what I was been reading. There was sort of a his his journal sort of came out. So there's snippets of what he wrote personally that are starting to come out about this too. And it's always fascinating, but not in a positive way sometimes when you're looking at sort of the mental state of somebody who does something horrific like murder
But,
somebody
think
allegedly
about this
outside of
guy,
a
though.
hotel.
He recognizes something that probably every healthcare provider in one form or another recognizes. Um, some of the aberrant behavior of carriers like United, where we have probably all experienced at one point or another some policy, decision, or behavior that this carrier has imposed on you, and it gives you a hardship. Maybe even that hardship is so far as to say it it may have hurt your ability to recover. So let's, at least as a backdrop, accept the fact that there's a lot within the healthcare system that can be criticized, that is extreme, that most of us with half a brain don't even understand how it exists, except we know money talks. So, with all that being said, it's hard in your mind to think this guy thinks I'm going to shoot this one person, allegedly, and make a difference. So, that's the part that's hard. It's hard to think that in his mind, allegedly, in his mind, that this one person's presence makes that much difference.
Well,
When we
it
all know
was
the problem's a lot bigger than that.
yeah, it was kind of laid out in one of the articles that he according to this article, he had thought that this would create a momentum and that people would be on his side because of the broken system of health insurance and healthcare in this country. Now,
What does that look like, though, on his side? He's gonna be
yeah,
in jail, if they convict him, he'd be in jail, possibly on death row. So, is that gonna make him comfortable to think that he created a movement? Well, what does that movement look like? We have enough protesting going on in this country where they don't even know how to protest anymore. It's not protesting when violence is the end result. That's just a bunch of thugs who don't know how to behave in public instead of protesting. So, what was his goal? And, what might be his goal to think that violence by killing a single individual would be enough to generate a movement that wouldn't propagate more violence?
well, I don't know if his intention
Yeah.
was or wasn't to do that, but
Well,
I can say that what was interesting was the reaction that I saw from United Healthcare when this incident happened. Like within weeks, because I get these, email updates from health carriers through the billing company side of my world, there was these support letters for providers who were having issues with pre-authorizations, right? There was
right.
all of this like uh really warm and like, let's help you through the process. And what was actually very sad too as a result of this, not just the death of Brian Thompson, but a lot of executives and people that just work at insurance companies from like the lowest
Mm.
entry level person on up, they were told, don't, like, we're wearing gear right now that brand us. Don't wear any gear that brands you as UHC or any health
Hmm.
insurance company. Like there was this whole inner dynamic of, basically hide what you do because you don't know if you're a target from other people.
Yeah. Does that mean we can no longer have a disagreement without fear of being shot or beaten or whatever? That we no longer can have civil disobedience without it being attached to some level of violence. What a shameful thing to happen. And what this person has done is only created that environment of making it this fearful world again. Everywhere we go, we're in fear of something right now. We're not the land of the free if I can't wear the shirt I wanna wear. I'm not, the land of the free if I can't wear the hat I wanna wear, for fear that somebody's opinion would be so dramatically different that they might hurt me. Oh my god.
That part is sad because, you know, you become a victim
Mm,
just by the fear that gets instilled in you by people wanting to keep you safe, like your employer if you're UHC or another big carrier. What's interesting though is that with all of that, I analyze it and I'm looking at that like, well, um, to me, there's an acknowledgement by these carriers that this scheme is frustrating to providers and members. Like there is it's not just like this one-off from this one person who was a sicko and, you know, supposedly did what he did, right? So it was more than that, because if it was just a one-off, why would they have done all these precautions and told people not to wear branded stuff? If they didn't, to me, if they didn't acknowledge in some way that this whole system,
Right.
I mean,
I think
you and
most
I,
people, at least in principle, understand the frustration of what
yeah,
was being said here in this case. The frustration of insurance companies literally ruling our healthcare lives. People who have nothing, no background at all to make those kinds of decisions determining my well-being. So I certainly can ex- experience and understand the frustration.
I think they try to have it both ways too, because we look at, medical policies and reimbursement policies from these carriers, fill in the blank, whatever carrier you want. And they make these broad statements like, well, this shouldn't at all influence or intended to influence how you care for the patient. It's like, well, wait a minute.
Wait a
If
minute.
nobody's going to pay me for what I think should be done because your medical policy, your reimbursement policy is so restrictive, and maybe I can't even build a member who might decide to want it anyway, how is this not affecting the care that I'm trying to render?
And
Hello?
then to make it all worse, at the end of the month, I'm going to get a bill from my healthcare policy, maybe even from the same carrier that just went up 22%.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, that's it.
so yeah, the
We talk about
frustration
this,
is there.
and we've talked about this in other podcasts. It's sort of related because the more you're paying for your premiums, the more you expect coverage to be there for when you go to whatever specialty you go to. So when you're told, well, yeah, you've got coverage for chiropractic. However, it's only for the adjustment. So you're going to have to pay for the exam. You're going to have to pay for the x-rays. Oh, and if we need to do some supportive procedures, you have to pay for those too. It's like, well, wait a minute. And then you've got a mega copay on the actual adjustment, which would probably actually be the whole visit anyway. Literally, what's the
Yeah.
insurance company paying for?
Right.
Zero.
When it comes right down to it, what is it that they actually pay for? Except exactly what you said. I have health insurance. I pay a small fortune for it every month. I want to use it. And they're really not even using it. They're just filing their insurance claim, but they're not actually using insurance. They're not getting things
Mhm.
covered.
It's
And
almost like a
so
discount program at that point.
exactly.
Yeah.
So it is a very frustrating experience to have this, and certainly to witness this and say, okay, now here's this man who was allegedly driven to the point where where he actually might have or allegedly killed somebody, and the outcome isn't going to change a thing. This guy, if he gets convicted, will go to jail for the rest of his life, and UnitedHealthcare will probably post greater profits than they ever did. So, what's the answer?
Well,
What's the answer?
well, that leads us to that question, because
Yeah.
at the end of the day, you say to yourself, I say to myself as just a John Q. public person, as a person in a medical profession, maybe you say to yourself, doc, as a provider, like there has to be a breaking point at some point. Everyone knows the system really isn't working, but everyone's afraid to touch it, and all they do is throw more money at it. But the money they're throwing at it isn't going back into benefits or to provide a reimbursement. Where's the money going? Right? There's only a couple of troughs it could be going into. I certainly haven't on the claim side. I have not seen that. I can tell you that not every carrier increases their fee schedule every year, and the ones that do either annually or at some point, one of them I calculated was 8 cents for that
It's
service for the primary 8
right,
cents.
but they increased it. They can say on
Yeah,
paper they
8
increased
cents,
it.
because we all know that the cost of doing business, you know, pretty much same thing as that 8 cents, right? I don't think
Right.
so.
Yeah,
I
yeah. It
mean,
didn't go. That's all it went up last year was 8 cents. So.
You and I respectively and collectively have testified at some state division of insurance hearings, right? And I'm looking at this Teams meeting with, it looked like the Brady Bunch on steroids, all these little tiles with pictures, all these providers that are on this hearing, on this information session or whatever, and fill in the blank with their specialty, but the theme was all the same. It was the stuff we're just talking about. Reimbursement sucks. These referrals and pre-authorizations are impossible. You appeal a claim, you almost never win that, and you don't get a really specific answer as to why.
You're not even talking to a live person anymore.
Oh no, most provider services now you can only email. You can't even talk to somebody. Like if you for credentialing now with claims, yeah, but you wait 20 minutes to 2 hours to talk to somebody who then says, I can only do 3 things and you'll have to call back.
Right. Right.
Like what?
So here we go. We go back to what is the solution? And it's like, well, there really isn't a solution. So if we would have just and collectively, it's a solution that's way beyond my pay grade and brain power. But in chiropractic, there is a partial solution. And it's what we've said in almost every podcast in one way or another. We have to be able to get our patients to understand the value of our services beyond whatever the insurance is. Because if you really think that at some point you can rely on insurance as the basis for your business, you won't be in business. So this is just more fodder than you need to deal with in chiropractic. Yes, become, we'll say, proactive, even to the point where, you can write your congressmen and senators and deal with the big picture. But in the microcosm of chiropractic, our immediate solution is to stay in our lane, get people to understand the magnificence of chiropractic, the magic of chiropractic, and they'll pay for it, just like they'll pay for their haircut every month.
Well said, doctor. When I think about the I mean, let's just say you've been in the chiropractic profession a lot longer than I have.
There it
Let's
is.
just say. Okay?
And
But
there it is.
in the few decades that I've been in it, collaterally, the amount of changes that I've seen, not with chiropractic has some great changes in it. Some great the research has been much more improved internationally. The supportive procedures that support the adjustment. I mean, technology. The things that suck, to be honest, are all generated from insurance.
Exactly. And I want you to ask yourself, if you're out there and, for example, you use some of those therapies, which we strongly advocate and teach and whatever. So you have something like a shockwave or class 4 laser, class 3 lasers. You might have decompression. You might have all these other procedures that are now coming into vogue, some functional medicine. And why is it that you have no problems asking a patient to spend $100, $150, $200 for a shockwave treatment? Yet that same person won't pay for an adjustment. It's mindset that what we've seen here in this perfect example of somebody whose mind took it so far that he would allegedly do something like this. We can use this and say, if people are going to let it get that far, I need to pull it back in my little microcosm, teach people the magic of what we do, because there's certainly a lot of magic behind chiropractic, and get them to pay for it like they would a shockwave, like they would laser decompression or a haircut.
Yeah, well said. I mean, we see it often, and we've hosted classes online, on demand, live, in person, on these very things and supportive things. And there are I can say when you embrace it and you get it, those doctors, they just go off the charts with
Mhm.
success. but it is a mental state of mind first. You have to balance your own mental state of mind to be able to
Mm,
maybe sometimes come outside your box as a salesperson. You don't go to school to be a salesperson, but there is, like most things, a bit of sales and everything, and not a push, but a pull, right? So,
yeah.
and
No, nobody wants to
yeah,
be a salesperson, but we are in business. And that
yes.
business is that we are selling a product. We don't have anybody else doing it for us like medicine. So we have to assume that role. And if people can't be allowed to understand what it is we do to the extent that we do it and what it means to them and their well-being, which we have said and others that we've had on our podcast have said how magnificent this can really be. Where do you go from here? You know, you will never be successful in practice if you don't own what it is you're actually selling. So get behind it. If you don't love it, find out why not. If you need more information, go get the information. But it's out there. And once you learn what's out there and what the adjustment really can do for an individual, you'll never have any problems asking for payment.
Yeah, I think sometimes the hard part is just getting out of your own way. Like if you're focused on the negative, you're focused on the frustrations. I mean, this guy Mangione was only focused on the frustrations to the point where he, on videotape, I hate to say allegedly, but it's on video, allegedly, shot this guy Brian Thompson, who, you can judge the CEO of any corporation or healthcare insurance corporation you want, but the guy was just doing his job. There's a lot of things we talked about that I don't like about any healthcare company and what they do. That doesn't rise to the level of assassination on a New York street
Right.
at
And certainly
all.
doesn't turn, someone like a Mangione into a hero.
No.
He's not a hero. He didn't do anything. All he did was, yeah, allegedly take a gun and express frustration. Well, we're all frustrated, and God help us all if we express our frustration in the way that he expressed frustration. We'd be in a lot of trouble.
Yeah. I mean, my heart goes out to the Thompson family for sure. Even now, I
Yeah.
mean, it's been over a year, but it's a tragedy. And like most things that, the best laid plans, this guy probably didn't think that one, he'd be so irrelevant so quickly in the sense that he didn't create the movement I think he was looking for.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but it doesn't change. I don't think it changes the fact that there are frustrations and issues that just can't continue forever in the world of healthcare in the United States. It's just there are breaking points and tipping points, and sometimes when they break, they might break for the better, as you described in chiropractic. They might, it's funny because we talked about this before, and I'm looping back as a massage therapist. I'm looping back to my profession and going, they're going down the same trap. And
Mhm.
the ones I'm going to say, I'm going to generalize here. So here come the emails, but I'm going to generalize here that oftentimes the ones that are really pushing for the coverage are the ones that are struggling in business. They're the
And
ones that
don't
are,
own what it is that they're doing.
yeah, they're just having a hard time filling their schedule. So they're looking for other revenue sources, not realizing the dramatic change that they will have to deal with by accepting assignment on an insurance claim.
Yeah.
From all the collateral, the documentation, the technology, the waiting for your money, the crappy reimbursement. I mean, why would you
Mm.
want that?
Yeah. I mean, if you don't own what you do in business, your business is gonna own you, and it doesn't it'll never work. It never worked. The most successful chiropractors, and I will say this flat out without any hesitation, the most successful chiropractors are, and we're assuming honest and ethical people, the most successful chiropractors are the ones that own chiropractic.
Yeah.
Patients know this. Patients
They have a
know
passion
this.
for it too, right? I
They
mean,
have
like,
a passion for
whatever
it. They wanna do it.
their niche is,
Right.
let's
But
say.
if you went into this business and all you're doing is trying to find more ways to charge a patient, charge an insurance company, make more money, and you don't even know squat about what you're doing, you'll always be looking for that next best thing. There's an old movie called Looking for Mr. Goodbar, right? With Diane Keaton,
Isn't
I
that a
believe.
candy? Get Mr. Goodbar?
Yeah,
Wasn't
it
that a
was.
candy?
Yeah, but it was Looking for Mr. Goodbar, and it was, Diane Keaton, I believe, was the movie, and it was that same thing. Always just trying to find the next
Was
best.
that the first talkie? That movie?
No, not Buster Keaton.
Oh,
Diane
sorry.
Keaton.
I'm just picturing
Okay,
you in the theater,
there we go. I'm
rolling up with
done.
your horse and buggy.
There you
Someone's got the
go.
cue
Yeah,
cards up front. The music's being
yeah,
live.
yeah. They got the old machine with the
Yeah,
crank so that you can.
yeah,
Yeah, I got
yeah.
it. Okay, yeah. Oh,
News
so
from
wait a
around the
minute now.
world
All
in the
right,
middle of the
wait.
movie.
We just spent whatever, a half an hour talking about what happens when you're overly frustrated.
Yeah, right. I know, right? Uh-oh.
Oh,
Ah,
okay. Well, I think those are just great points to ponder and maybe in some good way turn it back on yourself to be, I won't say a positive in that this poor man was killed for no real good reason or no good real effect. But maybe make it have impact on how you think about what you do and why you do it.
yeah. Boy, is that right. Because there's a lot of different ways to wring out your frustrations. And scratching words on bullets like deny, delay, and depose are not one of them, in my opinion.
Yeah, you know,
You know what I mean?
it doesn't work, and we've seen it. Okay, if nothing else, if that was where you were so inclined, take a
Yeah.
look. It doesn't work. It never will work.
Yeah. No. Well, this was a bit of a somber episode, but I thought it was important to talk about it and to really isn't it's a really to mourn the effects of this tragedy, but also what were some of the motivations allegedly behind this, and that some of these frustrations we all share,
Mm,
but it's how we respond to it and how we handle it in our own offices with our
yeah,
own, and cheerleaders for our own staff that might have some
yeah.
frustrations
Use
and
it.
stuff like that. Yeah.
Use it.
Yeah. Well, we'll be back with let's hope a more lively episode.
I'm
Thanks.
sure it will be.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
sure it will be. Thanks again for listening to another episode of All Things Chiropractic. I'm Paul Andrews.
I'm Dr. Mike Davini. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening to All Things Chiropractic. We'd love to hear from you. Visit allthingschiropractic.com with comments, episode ideas, or questions. Or connect with us on Facebook and Instagram at All Things Chiropractic Podcast. Be sure to join Dr. Mark Davini and Paul Andrews next time for another episode of All Things Chiropractic.